So we filmed entirely in the Bethlehem area. I always say birthplace of Jesus, in the West Bank of Palestine. And we filmed at a real checkpoint in scene 2 of the film, an infamous checkpoint called Checkpoint 300, as well as fabricating a checkpoint for the majority of the film, all in the Bethlehem area.
So what were some of the challenges of filming there? I imagine that it must have been really logistically challenging and also just a very emotional place to be filming.
Yeah, look, making a film, regardless where you are in the world, is already stressful. You know, you're chasing the sun, you're dealing with budgets and timings and all sorts of stressful situation. But then when you're in an area which is militarily occupied, there's that extra stress of, you know, could our equipment be confiscated? Could our footage be confiscated? Getting the permits. Different Palestinians on the shoot had different permits, so they had to go through real checkpoints to get to work, to get to set, and all sorts of stresses like that. And then, of course, filming at a real checkpoint, as mentioned, Checkpoint 300, that had its own difficulties as well. We took in 2 cameras. We avoided bringing in lighting. We went in guerrilla style, if you like. So yeah, lots of different stresses, but I'm grateful. It was smooth enough.
And Farah, you mentioned those stressors, and the story certainly highlights the plight of Palestinians. I should mention we just hit a year of COVID here in the U.S. Looking at the film, do you hope that it brings attention to the challenges of life in Palestine, not only, you know, in day-to-day life pre-COVID, but also particularly now that we're in this pandemic?
Yeah, look, Palestinians have been dealing with, you know, control systems and checkpoints are just one part of that. And there's over 100 checkpoints, Israeli checkpoints all over the West Bank, and another 100 flying checkpoints that can appear anytime, anywhere. And they've been around for decades. Right. So for Palestinians, this is just part of their lives. Whereas I think the pandemic has just only added to that stress. But I hope it means that people around the world can kind of empathize with this idea of having their movements restricted just that little bit more, I hope. But yeah, it's relatable.
And this is the first film that you directed, I believe, and you co-wrote it as well. And I know that I'm sure it's no surprise to you that women and women of color are vastly underrepresented in the film industry. What challenges did you face quickly breaking into the industry with this film?
You know, I can't say that I've had major challenges myself. I knew what I wanted to make. I knew that I wanted to make this film with, you know, every bone in my body, and I just pushed forward with that. And I think that as a female, it's about, you know, making it very clear that you can do the job just as well as anyone else, and you have a clear vision of what you want to do, and that vivid visual verbal imagination that any other director would have, regardless of where they're from, their background, their sex, and you just go for it. And so for me, it's been a good experience, to be frank.